Good day and welcome back to my channel. This is the next update on the black pearl, which should be kind of obvious since that's what's here and that was the intro and all of the fun stuff. A few things to go over at this point. As you can tell, I've gotten some work done, and I'm also using a new filming setup, so if this looks a little bit weird or ends up being odd or weird, funky, my apologies, because I'm still figuring it out. So a few things to talk about. The first thing is I am working on the weathering, and I mentioned last time I was going to work from the bottom up. So now I've done the deck material, right? So I've got the decking detail laid down. I've got the cannons all in place. I've started putting crew members on board. I have all of the deck scatter laid about. As I mentioned before, some are tied down, some aren't. There will be a couple of dinghies, boats that'll be on the deck. I haven't gotten to putting those on yet because I haven't finished building them yet, but that's next. So I also have these side, I don't even know what they're called, but they're the anchor points for the shrouds. They go up to the mast. So those things I've got on. So now what I've started to do is do the weathering. And I'm working with, again, my images of the pearl from, for the most part, the first movie. There are different pieces and there are different aspects of the pearl for different movies, and I'll get to those later, but the weathering and so forth that I'm going for is what I see from pictures of the pearl in the first movie. Now, most of this work has been dry brush. So it is dry brush with this dark black gray with light gray and then brown. I think you can kind of see the places where we have brown, we have gray, we have all of those different colors sort of at play. I need to detail these pieces up in here yet, but you can see that those are where all the weathering around the doors and the gun ports and so forth. Those are essentially coming off of pictures that I see of the pearl in the first movie. I've also done weathering on the deck, and again, what I did not do is paint the deck different colors or a different color. It's all that same black, quote unquote black. It's actually a dark gray. That is weathered up and down in different directions. So, and again, this is all dry brush technique. All of this in here is between a light and a heavy dry brush scrubbing. And I pretty much was following, where do people go? What are the walkways? What are the pathways that people walk on the deck? And where would there be where wouldn't there be where? So you see it get darker in toward the inner part of the capstan, things like that. That's where, you'd see less wear and tear. Getting wear on the railings going up to the poop deck, again, same thing as trying to mirror or match those pictures of what that looked like. Okay, so now as we talk about what it looked like, how it looked like, I'm making some command decisions for, again, I have a picture in my head of the pearl with the tattered sails in the fog, etc. Now I know for those of you who are detail oriented on the show, on the Pirates of the Caribbean, that the poop deck on this is different from the first episode. So the black pearl had a four prong, or not a 4-prong, but a 4-post belfry for the bell, and the skylight was flat. I wanted to do this way, so that is intentional on my part. But the rest of these pieces are going to be along the lines of what I saw in the first movie, and that's the direction I'm going. So what does that mean? So the center rail, right? So you see this right here. I've gone back and looked at it a few times. All of these parts I'm going to snip off and make go away. This railing only had the railing coming up, and it had these two pieces. That's it. The rest of it was open. So I'm going to snip off the rest of this railing and make it go away. I'm waiting intentionally until I start putting the masts on, because that means my hands won't be going in there, which will help me not break those. I'm expecting myself to break those, which is what I'm worried about. The next piece are the gun port doors. So the kit comes with, and I've mentioned these, the kit comes with these pieces right here, right, where you're expected to tie the ropes to the doors, right? You tie these ropes to these doors, and then you tie them to the posts like this, right? Now, in the first movie, they don't have these posts. In the first movie, they have holes that go into the hull, and the doors actually flip all the way up. The way this is configured, the doors only come up part way. I mentioned this, I believe, in probably one of my first videos on this. I have decided that I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with the doors without those little posts. It's just what I want. It means I do need to do some detailing on the underside of the gun port doors. Sorry for that noise. As you can see, there is no detail on the underside. There is lots of nice detail on the top, but the underside doesn't have it, so that just means I'll have to fake it with paint, which, I can do that. And the next thing to do is the forecastle railing. So this railing that was done, the rope railing that I did here, you see that in the movie. There's also a railing that goes around the front of the forecastle. Now, that railing is different in almost every picture I see. I made a point to go back and watch the first movie, and in the first movie, there are 2 rows of rope going all the way around, and they're basically just posts with the ropes tied around them. Matter of fact, I'll put a picture of it right here. Right now, that was, I believe, the battle between the Black Pearl and the Interceptor, and you can clearly see where the anchor was tied. That had the 2 rows of rope. Almost every other picture I see of the Pearl has either 1 row or it's missing or whatever. And again, we're talking about movie hardware. So it's different from scene to scene. It is what they make it. So, this is my choice. This is the choice I'm making. The other thing is the shrouds and rat lines. There is some work to do on those, and I need to figure out how I'm going to do the shrouds and rat lines, because they're a little bit different in the movie than they are with the kit. Okay. So the next thing, as we go through, are the masts, right? So the masts are 2 pieces, right? And all of them are that way, right? So you have the bottom, middle, and then there's another top piece that would go on it, which is like later. So anybody who does armor, right? The barrels of your tank cannons, if they're in 2 pieces, it just makes an ugly seam. And one of the things I have found is that seam is annoying. It annoys me. Now, the seam itself I can work with. The part that I can't work with is, now where all these are, and I'll get to those in a second, where all these are, there's rope bound around the mast, right, to hold the mast together. And it's like this, okay? So it's like this piece here. All of them have that kind of seam, right? And you see that seam there. Every one of them. And I have found over time, and in all my experience, I have never been able to make those look good. So my choice, as you can see, was to literally bind each one of those over with rope or thread. So now it actually has a rope look. And that is easier for me to do than it is to sand every one of those and make them look nice that way. So I'm able to sand these down the center, so I can go back and I can paint those, and I will be doing those in Hairy Brush to give them their weathering before I put them on the pearl. So, building up the masts, I'm going to go and do these steps. Then I'll do the weathering on those steps. Then I'll put them on the pearl. And then before I put these upper masts on, I'll do the same thing to those, right? So the weathering will be next for those. So, the shrouds. Let's talk about the shrouds. Let's find the shroud piece. Here we go. So, the shrouds and rat lines are they are the only rigging for this model that is not expected to be rope, right? The shrouds and rat lines are all done with these parts. Now, I'm going to say this very clearly. These are really good. The detail on these is really nice. The sag for the rat lines is nice. There isn't like a knot between them, which could be, but you could duplicate that with a dot of glue. But they're really nice. Now the downside to this is they are plastic. My thought is, do I want to replace those with thread? And they're doable, right? It is doable to do so. So if we look at how they go together, these two pieces go here, okay? So these are your buckles that attached to this part of the hull, and it's these pieces here, right? So you have a front and a back. So you have this one, and you have this one. You have a front and a back, and they will go together in such a way that I could easily do this with thread. I could go ahead, loop the thing in thread. The downside here is these. They're designed to go right in there. So now that's where what normally happens is your shrouds come up, they wrap around the mast here, come back down, and they go in pairs. So you would have this one goes up, wraps around the mast, comes back down to this one, gets tied off. This one goes up, wraps around the mast, comes down, gets tied off this, right? And then for these ones that have odd numbers, you'd go up, come back down, and then your odd one out goes up and goes over to the other side, right? So for these these pieces would work, and I could just wrap thread around them. Yeah, I could put those together, just wrap thread around them. The trick is the rat lines are designed to be glued right in there. Now, if I choose to do it the hard way, which is actually using thread, because these are here, because that detail is there, it's very easy for me to thread the rope through, bind into there, come back down. And I can do that because there would be 3 loops around, and there will be 1 loop, and there will be 3 loops around on the other side. So this will just get covered. They'll go right in that loop. So it'll be easy peasy. So it's doable with minor difficulty, but it's doable. But here's my catch, right? And what's a catch to me is the upper shrouds, which are these guys up here, right? I'm on focus. There we go. These parts do not have the same build. Those parts have this buckle assembly as part of this whole piece. So I can't easily wrap thread around that piece and then come up. What I would have to do is snip this in such a way that I could end glue or tip glue thread in here and go up. Now it's possible what I could do is snip that off, drill it out, have enough to drop in the thread and let it bind up with super glue. But then I'd have to go up and around, then come back down and get it to do the same thing here. So, so end glue in there. So it's not as forgiving. I could choose to use this. I mean, it was going to be the same thing. Again, these glue into the top piece, so the decision will be to wrap it around, etc. So the decision point is, do I want to? I can choose to use these. The downside of which would be these are going to be more easily seen than these, right? These lower ones, because these are on the top. These are up higher on the mast. They're up top. And then I will have a definite difference between these and rope versions of these. That may squick with my brain. The second option is to figure out how to do what I just said. Glue that in, do that, and whatever, and bring it back down using this part. The third option, which is possible, is to get 5mm turnbuckles. I think they're called turnbuckles. I'm not a sailor, so those of you who do sailing ships can correct me. So the other option is to actually get turnbuckles and do that whole assembly like they do on wood ship models, where they have to do all that by hand. I'm up in the air on all of those. I don't know which way I'm going to go on those. So that's a decision I have to make, but it's not a decision I have to make today. That is tomorrow me's problem. The option of choosing to just go with the plastic rat lines, the plastic shrouds and rat lines, I'm probably not going to do that. At minimum, I will probably do these lower shrouds with thread, just because I want the experience. I want to have done it. It is biting off a lot, I know, but then this whole kit is biting off a lot. I'm choosing to do a lot of things on this kit that I haven't tried before, and it's both rewarding, exciting, and a little bit daunting. But I've come this far, and I am pleased so far. There's still a lot of work with weathering to do. You can see what I've done. This is all this dry brush here is to give that faded look. And again, it's matching the picture I see, but it's to give that weathered, faded, sun bleached, salted, dried salt spray look on the kit. So I've got all of this to finish. While I'm finishing that, I'm doing phases. I'm doing this, letting it cure, dry, whatever, and then doing the mast. I can do these pieces of the mast, have that ready, and then probably sometime in a week or two, when this much is done, I will be at the point where I need to make a decision. I suspect I know the direction I'm going to go. I just don't know how far I'm going to go, but it's a little bit daunting. Anyway, that is where I am now. That is the Black Pearl getting weathered. Our next state anyway. It may be a bit till I have another update, because it's really finishing this, because I'm only maybe about halfway done. All of this is just really the rough part. I still have to go through and do all the little specific detail that you would normally see on all this, and this needs to be dry brushed and so forth. So there's still a bunch still to do. So it may be a while before I get another one of these up. But in the meantime, this is how far I've gotten. I hope this is at least entertaining, and for those who are looking at this kit and trying it, hopefully my attempts will give you pre-warning on what decisions might not be good ones and what might be. So with that, I will say thank you very much for watching. I appreciate your attention, and happy modeling.